I think we can get started. I'm going to go through the slides. I'll spend the appropriate amount of time on the slides that are relevant. But if I go through some of the slides too fast and you want to take a look, let me know. We'll back it up. I'm recording this session as well, so you'll have a link to it. You can go back to it, and I'll make sure you guys get a copy of the presentation deck as well. So this session here is on estate planning and how to become the center of your client's estate. You guys, I told you a little bit about myself. I'll skip over that. The need for estate planning, the support for your clients, and the resources available are what's on the agenda. And so largely the need for estate planning is, what's really on the minds of elderly Canadians. Largely, they want to protect their money, but they want to have control over their finances, and they still want to be able to provide for their children and not be a burden on them either. Keeping family harmony is something that people don't really think about or consider. How many times have you had a client who sat down and said, we need to do some estate planning, and they're like, well, I got the will and everything's already figured out in the will. Besides that, I'll be gone, I'll be dead, I'll be gone. It won't affect me, right? So I had a lot of clients like that, and I would say, just listen, it's in the will. Why do we have to do anything more than that? Largely, it's a fear of it's an awkward conversation that they don't want to have with their children, right? Or with their loved ones. They don't want to have that awkward conversation. So the advisor bringing it up over and over, can become sore to them. What I would do with clients like that is I would say, listen, I'll never bother you again about the estate planning conversation. Do me one favor. Tonight, after everyone goes to bed, go to the kitchen, take a piece of paper and a pen, and write me your obituary, right? And if you can get through that exercise, I won't bother you about estate planning ever again. And largely, they can't. What they thought they wouldn't care about, they care about. And if it's not something that they care about with their children directly, it's their grandchildren that they largely care about, and the legacy that they leave behind. I'll give you an example of a family that I knew where the grandfather passed away literally weeks before he died. He canceled his whole life insurance policy that was paid up. Why? God knows, right? Bad advice, right? Passes away. He was the patriarch of the family. Family starts, trying to settle the estate. Conversations weren't had. Whatever was in the will was so outdated, even though, trying to get through the process, it was amicable within the family. But then after it was all said and done, things got really bad. To the extent that the siblings don't even talk to each other anymore. There's 4 of them. They don't even speak to each other anymore. Could that all have been avoided? And this is what I'm talking about is a really tight-knit family. How do I know this? Because this is my family. Okay, this is my brother and his 3 siblings who haven't spoken to each other after my grandfather passed away because of just really bad estate planning, in my opinion. Conversations that could have had they're awkward, but they need to be had, right? Advice and putting trusted advisors that weren't really even professional advisors, just friends of family, or buddy said this, buddy said that, right? My dad was a bus driver for Calgary Transit. Don't hate on us because we're Calgarians, okay? We're all Albertans here. But my dad would come home and give me stock advice. I mean, where'd you get that tip? He'd be like, well, the mechanic, Larry. I'd be like, really? Dad, you sent me to school for a reason, right? Like, can I maybe give you some advice on how to manage your portfolio? No. He wants to buy some Utica gas or shale gas play in Quebec. Well, we know what happened to that, right? Environmentalists shut it down. My dad lost, I don't know how much he put into it. I was like, you're gonna learn your lesson the hard way, buddy, right? But that's just largely it. And I mean, even myself having that conversation with my father today, it's a difficult conversation to have. It's awkward. I have an older brother, and he's probably the more responsible one out of the 2 of us. And so now my brother and I are talking and we're having serious chats about, hey, you know what? Mom and dad listen to you. I'm worried about this, this, and this. We need to have a conversation about this. I agree. We need to sit down and have a conversation about this. Getting them to the table has been impossible. And here are two of their children who are educated and smart and want to have the conversation because we don't want to have a fallout in our families. We don't want to have it so that our kids see each other randomly and start playing with each other, but don't even know that they're related. You know what I mean? Like that's a legacy that you don't want to have as a grandparent. So that's why this is important, and that's what's actually on these people's minds. If you're getting resistance from people about having the conversation, understand that it's probably very emotionally deep-rooted. It's not about laziness, it's not about stupidity, it's about a really emotional factor that you need to put your therapist hat on to get at, or what I do, my bartender hat. Mental capacity is a huge issue as well. I don't know if you guys know this, but majority of people, of Canadians diagnosed with dementia over the age of 65 are women. I never knew that. That scared me because I love my mom, and out of the two of them, if I had to pick, I'm kidding. It's an ugly statistic. I hate that. It's that there's a gender factor weighted to it. And the numbers are pretty staggering. And so the biggest form of what they call, dementia is Alzheimer's, right? That's the biggest one. And what they're predicting here is that 912,000 Canadians will have dementia in 2030. So the estate planning process, okay, we have a will. Now we have beneficiaries. Oh, we have to make changes. Let's go back to the lawyer. Unaz just told us he just had a kid 6 weeks ago, still has nothing in his will. I don't blame him. 6 weeks is not, but still anything could have happened, right? And we're professionals in this industry, and we let that stuff slide. Now imagine your clients, right? How long will they go before they actually make a change in their will, considering significant changes in their lifestyle and in their lives overall? And the other part is about trusted financial advice. So the Canadian Securities Administrators have already introduced, if you're on the security side or if you're on the side of business where you do even mutual funds, the trusted contact person is now a requirement on that side of the business. It's coming to our side of the business, where it's no longer going to be an option to fill out a TCP or a trusted contact person. It's going to become mandatory. So get used to the idea of already having this conversation about a trusted contact with your clients, because once it becomes a regulatory, you don't want to look like you're behind the curve, right? You want to actually be ahead of this. And the more you can get ahead of this, the more you can actually even then bulletproof and put a fence around your client, because this is a great way for advisors to come in and scoop your business up, asking why their advisor never had this conversation and why it's important to them, right? So don't leave a gap in your practice. Other advisors will be exploiting this, especially on the other side, on the security side, because they're already having to do this. So we need to catch up. If that's the case, we need to catch up. Yeah, Unaz said this earlier. 51% of Canadians don't have a will. Scary. And then 46% of estate planning professionals said that family conflict is the biggest threat to estate planning. Something like 26% is beneficiary assignment, and then like 31% of was due to estate equalization issues or businesses in the family or assets in the family. Like, let's say, for example, one of the kids lives at home, and now in order to equalize the estate, they have to sell that home. Well, where's that kid going to live, right? You guys already know that there's a big dollar opportunity. That's not why I'm here talking about this. I'm here talking about this because we need to educate people. We need to get this going. But yes, there is a financial incentive, and it's large. The way money is going to move between the baby boomers and Gen X is going to leave about $250 billion of assets that are going to be inherited by boomers. Okay. So the boomers are the big demographic everyone's talking about. Boomers are actually going to inherit money too. they're still in line to inherit. So then imagine that grow, and then imagine the next generation, the Gen Xers, after that come to inherit these things. What's happening in the advisor world? Is there consolidation happening? Yes, there are fewer and fewer advisors. So there's a lot more money going to end up in fewer and fewer hands as an advisor. So that's another reason why we want to safeguard, build fences around our clientele, right? Inheritances also create motion. 62% of clients leave their advisor when their spouse dies. I didn't know that was that big. 71% leave their advisor when their parents die and the children inherit. That I thought would I thought, okay, that's a big number, but I thought, okay, it's reasonable. Not because I see Quest Trade commercials on TV and it angers me. You're still using Dad's guy, right? Like my blood boils when I see that commercial. But it's true. They try to think that AI and robo advisors can replace us. We know that's not possible, right? So that's when we know that the work that we put in, the good work that we put in, has value, and we need to make sure that they know that as well. These Quest Trades, these robo advisors can't do that. They're not having conversations. They're not managing family fallouts. They're not taking spouse out for a drink after a divorce. You know what I mean? Like, they're not doing that stuff. So we're not replaceable, and the fact that 71% of it leave their advisor when the children inherit means that we're not doing a good enough job creating a relationship with all members of the family, right? But even the spouse, the 62% from the spouse, it's not just making a relationship with the main client. It's also having a strong relationship with the spouse and having a very strong relationship with the children. So how do you do that, right? How many people here have had to settle estates where you have to work with an executor, right? How many times out of 10 is the executor if a family member or a child of the deceased? Probably more often than not, right? More often than not a financial professional, doesn't know what they're doing. This is a huge burden. They're grieving at the same time, right? They don't know what their responsibilities are. They're really uncomfortable having that awkward conversation. They don't want their parents to get taken advantage of, and they're afraid of giving bad advice so that mom loses half her money or whatever, right? Another great reason for why we exist, because especially in our practice, our business, our first line of defense is we don't lose our clients' money on death, right? We make sure that doesn't happen. Depending on jurisdiction, in Alberta, probate's not a big issue, right? What is it, capped at like $700 or something like that, right? It's like 600, yeah. So it's not a monetary thing. The issue with probate is it takes a long time. It can, anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 years, right? Throw in a pandemic and then watch the lineup get even longer, right? So you ask your client, if you were to pass away, how quick do you think your kids would need the money? They're probably going to say sooner than later, right? So what we tried to solve for, the problem we tried to solve for was, how do we help elderly Canadians, those aged 80 to 90, be able to have an investment that could still grow, right? That wasn't overpriced or costly, that was simple and easy to understand, that gave them the ability to manage or to set up their estate, especially while they still have the capacity to do so mentally, right? And so what we came up with was this what's called estate protection. And we're the only ones in the industry that offer this. And I'll tell you what is unique about it. It offers 100% death benefit guarantee from day one, and it is not graded, okay? Our competitors at most will do a 75-75. If they do a 75-100, the 100 is graded over a 5 to 10 year period. Ours is day one, 100% death benefit guarantee. Every contribution is also 100% guaranteed. Any withdrawal, then the guarantee is just proportionately reduced. But day one, 100% right off the bat. The other thing that I like about it is that it's got a non-registered, single or joint component. So we know that, when it comes to estate planning specifically, non-registered investments, non-registered assets outside of insurance is not tax efficient, right? Nor can you actually even really have a survivorship, a tax-free survivorship attached to it. You can with this. It's got a small minimum initial premium, which is great. I'll talk about curated fund shelf. Estate bypass, you guys understand this already, right? It's seamlessly paid out to the beneficiaries, anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks. Forget about 1 to 2 years, right? Depending on, you got to have your paperwork in, you got to get your admin stuff done. But the greater of market value and the guaranteed death benefit amount is paid seamlessly to beneficiaries. Curated fund shelf, what does that mean? So we didn't want to have another seg product shelf that had higher fees than this product. So to keep the fees the same, we had to curate the shelf. So it still has target risk funds, it still has target date funds, it still has balance funds, and then it's got some fixed income and money markets. But by doing that, for one, if you think about the age of the client, is it appropriate for them to have a 100% equity portfolio at age 80? No. Okay. So a little bit more conservative. Makes sense from an investment, responsibility, perspective. These clients shouldn't be in 100% equity. But the other thing is because of the likelihood of them passing away at that age, it's 10 times higher than a 55-year-old. So to keep the costs the same, we have to limit the product shelf so that we can manage our risk, right? Now, customized inheritance, I love this because this reminds me of a trust structure, okay? Let's say you got 3 kids. Your one kid, golden child, right? Trustworthy. You can leave a lump sum to that kid. You know nothing's going to happen, right? You get a second kid. This kid's working out some stuff, right? Had a little bit of a tough time, but it's going to be great. But they need a little bit of help. Maybe over the next 10 years, they need a certain amount of money every month for the next 10 years. Okay, so that's another option. Now your third child is the disaster child. It wasn't even a love child; it was the child you regret even having. Okay, this child is an absolute catastrophe and cannot be trusted with any money. Forget about lump sum. Needs help for the rest of their life. So monthly payment for the rest of their life. That's an option. Option 4 is a combination of the 3, okay? And you can change it at any time. It's just paperwork. It's not go to a lawyer and redo a trust. It's paperwork through Canada Life, send it to Declan, send it to Katie, we get it done for you guys. It doesn't cost your client a thing, right? It allows you to have the conversation with your client while they got the capacity to have it, and they feel good about it. And then again, if they have a fallout with a child or if there's something changes, let's say there's grandchildren now or something else, it's just paperwork, right? Yes, Brad? Yeah, it's exactly what it is. It's estate protection is a segregated fund insurance policy. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Sorry. Yeah, so clicker. I just got it too. Okay. Joint annuity features we talked about. It's just you don't have to set up a trust. That's the whole point of this, right? If it's registered assets, it's different. There's a couple of different conversations that you can have from that. If a non-registered side, it's very difficult to have to find an alternative without going into a testimony trust or a family trust or a formal trust, which we know costs money. There's annual maintenance costs as well. And then there's just the dragging your feet to go to the lawyer to get your will updated or get your estate plan updated. When major events happen in your life, that's just life. We know that. We talked about customized inheritance. If they need access to their funds, no problem. There's no cap. There's no 10%. There's no nothing like that. Let's say they have additional healthcare expenses that they need to pay for. They want to create a safety net within this, or they want to share with loved ones. No problem. just the guarantees are reduced proportionally by any redemptions. You're gonna love me because I always read the fine print and I read it out loud to everyone because I don't trust anybody either. Okay, and I used to work for Manulife, so I learned to largely read the fine print. I can say that with confidence. Okay, we know this story. I don't have to tell you guys the 100% death benefit guarantee story. You know this. What I do want to show you is this. So here's the curated shelf first, right? So a good mix of really good funds. Conservative, moderate, balanced. You still put them in a balanced fund. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Moderate allocation versus GICs, paid a case for your clients, right? You have these resources available for you. Why am I skipping to this? Is because I want to show you something. This potential costs, mutual funds, GIC securities versus. Okay, no, these are just projected costs. This is the dollar amount based on a $1.5 million portfolio. Okay, so what they're saying here is estate tax probate up to 1.5%, estate legal fees, et cetera, between 4.72 and 12.5%. Okay. Now, if you take even the most conservative number, 4.72%, let's say that's the cost, potential cost for non-registered assets in mutual funds, GICs, and securities. And if you look at the difference between the MER of a mutual fund and the segregated funds, it's about 39 basis points, okay? The cost of insurance, that's what that is, right? Where's the break-even point? At what point, after how many years, does it no longer make sense, not make sense to do all the estate protection route, okay? So right at 15 years, that's when mutual funds, including probate, start to exceed segregated funds. So that means if your client's 85 by 100, it would have been okay if they just stayed in your mutual fund portfolio, right? Because of the additional cost. Now that's using the conservative assumption at 4.72%. You go to 12, there's no break-even point unless they live to like 250 or something, right? There's no break-even point. Sorry? Yes, yes, of course. That's another good point. The contract ends at 105. So that's what I mean. There's no break-even point, anything higher than 5 or 6% of potential cost. And we know, we've settled the states before. I think my average, even here in Alberta, was closer to 9%, right? After legal fees, executor fees, and everything is taken into account, you're at about 9%. So I don't think there's any situation where versus a balanced fund, at least versus a balanced fund. And that's what I would do. I'd put everybody in a balanced fund because you have a 100% guarantee in the back. Why not take the most aggressive one, right? Okay, you didn't hear that from me. I'm not giving you guys, this is not advice, this is education, okay? Just to be clear. So you wouldn't see a break-even point against the balanced fund at 9%. Estate bypass. There's one more thing about estate bypass I wanted to bring up. Public record. You guys know about public record, right? Anytime you file a document goes through court, probate included, it creates what's called public record. So why is that important? Because the way the law works here in Canada is once a document is made public record, anybody can access it. Anybody for a small fee. In Toronto, it was $25 that the Toronto Star paid the clerk's office to get a copy of Rob Ford's estate. That's how they went to town on him in the papers. They got all of his information from the court, and they said he had a crappy insurance policy. He didn't leave his ex-wife anything. They just totally, I mean, forget about the guy and how you feel about him. Just the fact that you could do that to someone for $25, that's crazy. Like that's enough for. I don't have a lot of money, and I don't want anybody to that's probably the thing. If you have, the less money you have, the more you should be worried about public record, right? It's just what a crappy thing for someone to do, but that's how it works. Anybody can go into the clerk's office, pay a small fee, and get a copy of any public record that they want, including your estate, including your client's estates. So probate is one thing. Avoiding probate is one thing. Avoiding public record because of probate is probably the bigger thing that your clients should know about and should be worried about, and as a result, should want to at least consider something like this if it makes sense. Okay. Again, be at the center of your client's wealth, or center of your client's traditional wealth transfer. Now, resources available to you. We got, there's tons of this. I can get Declan and Trevor to send this guys out to you. Not a problem. Anybody heard of copycat annuities? You have, because you come to every single one of my events. Thanks. I love that. I know, I love it. Copycat annuities. Anybody heard of it? Okay. This is the second solution, or the second strategy for becoming the center of your client's estate. How many of you guys, show of hands, have clients that have defined benefit pension plans? Okay. How many of you guys have clients that have community value could be significant? You probably, maybe you want that on your book, right? Okay. So what it is it's an option for a client to transfer all or a portion of the commuted value to a life annuity on a tax deferred, like no tax basis, right? That you get taxed as the income gets paid out, just like you would in a pension. When you get a pension to a defined benefit pension plan, the income that you get, then it becomes taxable. As long as it's in the pension, it's not taxable. So imagine being able to take it from a pension plan and put it into a life annuity under your book. Okay, how can this happen? Well, some people are concerned about the stability of their employer. I had an uncle who worked at Nortel. Remember those guys? He lost his life savings and his job on the same day. Right? I know my family's terrible with money. How do we even get here? You know, concerned about the strength of their registered pension plan. So manufacturing companies, you know, oil and gas companies. COVID didn't help, and a lot of these companies are their solvency ratios have been significantly impacted. So I'll give you some verbiage from an actual pension plan. I'll show you what that looked like. Maybe the client doesn't want to take market risk, right? They even know that their pension plan is managed that way. And if they have, what makes copycat annuities really, really lucrative is when the cost of the annuity is less than the commuted value of the pension. I'll tell you why in a second. Okay, qualifications. How does it qualify? It's got to be issued by the annuity has to be issued by a licensed annuity provider. It can't be materially different. So that means if the monthly payment is X, and then there's an adjustment for cost of living, and then there's a reduction at certain age, right? All of that has to be exact in the annuity as compared to the pension plan. Okay, there has to be a direct transfer from the RPP to the annuity, so it can't go through the hands of the client. And the annuity, it doesn't allow any premiums to be paid into it afterwards. So it's because now otherwise it goes into a lira and you can't contribute to a lira, right? Same sort of idea. So here's the verbiage. Option one, give me a lump sum, right? Go to a lira. That's the most common one. Option two, transfer it to my new employer's RPP, if that's an option. Sometimes it is, especially if they're part of a certain union or certain type of industry. You know, an engineer's pension plan, right? A teacher's pension plan, largely can be transferred from one employer to the next employer. Not as common, but it does happen sometimes. Number three, transfer my lump sum to an insurance company for the purpose of purchasing a life annuity. This is the copycat route. Number four is a LIF, by a LIF. Okay. So here's an example. This is a real case. Okay, so between year 2020 and 2025, age 60 to 65, here's the basic benefit, here's the spousal benefit, so here's the total monthly pension. After age 65, you're gonna lose the special allowance benefit. Okay? So we went and copied this. That basic benefit was $685, special allowance benefit was $57, total commuted value was $743,000. Okay? So we went and did an annuity quote. This looks familiar, right? Match the parameters of the payments, reducing it to the same amount. It's a joint life. That's what they wanted. They selected joint life. single premium, 672,841. So here, hang on a second, Andrew. What's that? Community value is this much. The copycat annuity was lower. Client gets a lump sum for the difference. Okay. So this is money they otherwise wouldn't have gotten. They're already going to get that monthly money, but now you've just given them a lump sum on top of it. Yes, it's fully taxable. 50% of it, 50%, let's say 25% of it's taxable, right? Capital gains. But they wouldn't have got that money otherwise. So why not, right? They're already going to get exactly the same monthly benefit as the pension. And now they get a lump sum on top. And that's because of you, right? Yes, sir. Yes, I can. This one here? Yeah, so I don't know what this is. I don't know why that says that. No, it's good. It's actually, I'm glad you did that. Yeah, no, I don't know where that came from. I'll get back to you. Thanks for that, though. That's good. It's a good catch. I love a person that reads everything on the page. I don't know why it says that. This presentation used to be done by a colleague of ours who passed away last year. He was a tax director, John Yonkis. I don't know if you guys remember him, but it's his presentation. He did a lot better job than I did, but I'm trying to keep his legacy alive too. But I'll find out for you. But thanks for bringing that up. I need to understand that myself. Okay, so there's another. Oh, sorry. Yes, Bernie. That's right. 100%. Great points. Yeah, annuity rates right now are so. So here's the thing with annuity rates. If the interest rate's too high, this doesn't work. If it's too low, it doesn't work. It needs to be a sweet spot. And the sweet spot for this largely has been, and we're still in the sweet spot, but started about mid last year. So May, June of last year, when the rates went up to that level. When they went higher than that, these things stopped working. And when the rates came back down, then these are going to be priced out better again. Insurance carriers need to manage their risk, right? So even if interest rates are fluctuating left and right, what they're doing on the annuity side adjusts not because of the market, but because of their balance sheet, right? So sometimes you find a better deal with another carrier. Yes, it's true. Am I largely concerned if you go and take this to another carrier? No, because now you know about it. So now you can actually help your client about it. I'd love it if you place it with Canada Life, but I'm not going to bend your arm or keep you obligated to it because I shared it with you. I don't think that I can add a lot of value to your practice if I'm hoarding information, right? So I'm going to share with you guys everything I know, and if there's a better deal somewhere else, go for it. Like, honestly, do the best thing for your client, right? Yes, and you're also right. Public service, some public service companies don't allow you to do it at all. Forget about 55. Some of them don't even allow you to do it at all. So what we need largely is the official pension package, and then we can take that and we can assess it, analyze it for you, and then have our annuity specialists come up with a quote. Okay. Now, sometimes if it's sort of borderline, right? If it's a competitive situation, there are ways to be able to run quotes at reduced commission levels. Okay. I hate having the commission conversation because I think you guys are worth every dollar for what you guys do. I would never want to reduce my commission for anything, right? But if it's a whole whack of money that's going to come in and yeah, maybe I take a little bit of a hit, but we can make the deal happen and it's the best thing for the client. And if the best thing for the client is something that's hinging on my compensation, I'll take the hit, right? as long as it's the right thing for the client, right? So it's possible to do run quotes at 100, 75, and 50 to see if that would make it, swing it in a different direction. I'm not saying that I'm not saying you guys are not worth 100% of your commission. I'm just saying it makes sense, right? There's the ability to do it is there. 8 p.m. the following business day to submit your paperwork is what we need in order to guarantee that rate. And then it's a 90-day rate guarantee from the time the paperwork is submitted. And then it needs to be funded by the annuity date, the start date. As long as it's funded by then the rate's guaranteed. Yes.
So this would only work if they already receiving the pension.
If they're already receiving a pension, no, you can't do anything about it. So sometimes people are not sometimes, every day people are going into retirement. They're bringing these packages home. They're sitting down with their spouse. They can't make heads or tails of it. If you're their advisor, they should be bringing that to you. And then now another option. So you can help them pick, right? You can help them pick between, help them pick between these options. I did that with my dad, an LAPP pension plan, right? We picked the one that was best for him. If I knew about copycats, then I would have probably at least assessed it to see if it made sense, run the numbers. But I didn't know about it then, right? But yeah, you're going to help your client pick this, right? As an option, you can say, hey, listen, there's an option for you to transfer this to a life annuity. Maybe there's a chance that it might be a better option for you. Let me call Ranvir and see if this makes sense, right? And then we'll run it for you, and if it makes sense, awesome. Right? Me too. Me too. Yes, sir. No, I can't. Yeah, it's the lump sum that exceeds the. It's the difference between the annuity cost and the community value. So it's no longer eligible for tax deferral. Right. Yeah. Let's see what else. We have a lot of articles. John's articles are still on there. Brad, I don't know if you got them from Declan or Trevor yet, but I'll make sure you do get them. Yeah, that is disclaimer stuff. That's what I wanted to share with you guys. Are there any questions first? Or I'm glad that we are interactive and answer a lot of our questions as we go. Like I said, you're not going to see me often slinging product because I don't like to do it that way. I'd rather come to you guys with solutions, strategies, things that maybe you didn't know, things that I wish I knew at a certain point in time, right? I'm still learning constantly all the time. If there's any way, and like I said, we have a dedicated team here now. So we belong to you guys. Like my team, we belong to you guys. We don't serve any other territory or any other zone or region. And we're happy to, however we can support you. And I'm training my guys to not have that product pitch either. When you get a phone call from my inside or from my RSA, they're not coming to you with a hey, I got a couple of ideas I'm running with this quarter. We don't do that. We're coming to you, we're saying, hey, listen, there's a couple of things that we saw that we were looking at. Maybe it makes sense for you guys. We did a presentation in Fort McMurray last week on, is this the case for value investing, right? I don't know. But just to give people ideas, have the conversations, give them sound bites, things that you can sit down and talk to your clients about is largely the kind of, I think, at least information I'll pass on. And if there's a way for us to work on a case together, remember I said earlier, I believe that if we get really good at figuring out what the problem is that we're trying to solve for, then the solution is going to present itself. You won't need me slinging products at you. We'll back into it, right? So the next part of this session here is a networking event. Because another thing that I have a mission to do is to bring the advisor community back together. I think congregation and community is important. And post-COVID, I haven't seen a lot of camaraderie between advisors. And I think we need to do that again. I know a lot of advisors who come to me and say, hey, Ranvir, I'm kind of getting long in the tooth now. I don't know what to do with this book, right? I'm like, well, hey, let's do some events. You can meet some of the younger guys or gals, right? And then I have the opposite. I have younger guys saying, hey, I'm trying to get into this business. I'd like to be mentored, or I like to meet somebody who's potentially looking at bringing on somebody. So I thought, why not we just do networking events at the end of every single one of these events that I do as a starting point, and then we'll just do exclusive ones where we can get the advisory community together. Drinks around the house, so help yourselves. And we're going to have appetizers come out as well for the next hour or so. Mix and mingle and be merry. And thank you guys so much for coming. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.